Since I've owned my A7 III, and even before I've owned it actually, I've been collecting vintage lenses to adapt to it and just mess around with. And I've built up a small collection of them, so I'm going to show you that today. So let's actually move this out of the way and bring all the lenses over here. Alright, so I got them all kind of bundled up outside of the frame a little bit here, mostly, maybe. Good enough. Alright, so these are going to be all the lenses I have for my A7 III besides the kit lens, which is what I'm filming on right now. The only lenses I have besides my kit lens are just all vintage lenses, because after spending so much on a camera, it's just so hard for me to spend another $600, you know, minimum for a good lens. So I mostly look for vintage lenses and just use those instead, because I just do this as a hobby. I mean, this is all I really do is YouTube videos. I'm not a professional photographer, filmmaker, or anything like that. I just love messing with cameras. So it's really hard for me to spend $500, $600, $2,000 on a lens. So I just stick with cheap vintage lenses, and I think they're awesome. I love using them. Built up a solid little collection that I love using. So let's get right into it. First lens, drum roll, here we go. This is a Super Takumar 50mm f1.4. I hope I said that right. This is an amazing little lens. I know everybody's heard of, you know, nifty 50s and 50mm lenses are the ones to get and whatnot. I'm not gonna say anything about that. I mean, I think 50mm is the same as any other focal length. You know, you just use what works best for you. But either way, this is a great example of a perfect 50mm vintage lens. The bokeh is creamy, it's perfect. Focusing is nice and smooth. I mean, it stops open to f1.4, so you can get, with the A7 III, some insane low light shots. I mean, you can pretty much shoot in pitch black and you're gonna get something cool out of it. So this is a great lens. I don't have much else to say about it. I mean, it's a 50mm lens. There's nothing crazy about it, nothing really interesting. Besides that, it's just an awesome lens. And it's pretty cheap too, so if you pick one up on eBay, it'll be a perfect lens. It covers the full frame, sensors, and it's awesome. So set that off to this side or wherever, I don't know. I'll just set it out of here. Lens number 2, let's see which one should we pick. We'll go with a little longer focal length here. This right here, a Vivitar 135mm f2.8. This uses the same mount as the last one I just went over. It's a thread mount. I believe it's the M42 thread mount. So basically it threads into, you know, an adapter, unless you actually have the camera that uses this mount. And this is an awesome lens as well. I haven't used it a lot, but I did do some test footage with this one and the other one, which I'll probably show, you know, as B-roll over top of when I'm talking about them, whatever. You'll probably see what I'm talking about in a second here. It's 135mm, which is great for portraits, and it has insane bokeh, like swirly. It's like, it's crazy. Like, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about by now. And again, I'm not an expert. I don't know how sharp the, you know, corners are compared to the middle, contrast ratios. It's an awesome lens. I love using it. That's all I worry about, is if it looks cool for me. And it stops open to f2.8, so it's not crazy, but with the A7 III, you can get some good footage or good pictures in low light. This is an awesome lens. I love this thing. I just don't usually shoot longer focal lengths. I'm more of a wide focal length type of guy, but you know, it's still awesome. I love this lens. I just haven't used it as much as I could have because I like, you know, more wider focal lengths, and I mostly do my videos here in the studio. So yeah, all right, moving on. Might as well finish off that trio. Right here, Soligor wide auto 35mm f2.8. This is the same mount, the M42 thread mount, as the other two. And this is a perfect lens trio for pretty much anyone, because you got a nice wide 35mm. This is really good for just anything, street photography or just any sort of filming you're gonna be doing. It's a good medium wide focal length. It's just a really good lens. I mean, it's also just like the 50mm. I mean, there's nothing crazy about it. It's not super special in any way. It's just a cheap 35mm vintage lens. It's really gonna give you that good vintage look, and paired with the A7 III, it's fantastic. There's one thing to note about this lens. This is gonna sound weird saying this is a negative, because this is probably a positive, but for me, for what I'm used to at least, it feels like this focus throw is so long that it like takes so much longer to like get to what I'm trying to do with running gun filming and stuff. Like it almost seems too long, and I know you're probably gonna think I'm stupid, but that's just my opinion. I'm used to shorter turns, and this one's super long, so that's gonna be good if you know get a follow focus, or if you are heavy into video and cinematography and stuff, it's gonna be great. But yeah, it's super long. You can get really precise focus. It just takes a long time to get from one side to the other. I'm sure you've seen some test footage by now of this. Nice wide angle, really versatile, really good for anything, and it's cheap. Moving on, next one. So this one's a little strange. This right here, I have an adapter on this that I never take off because this is just another 50mm vintage lens. I mean, I have another one that I'm about to show in a second too, but I have this adapter on it, and I'll get to that in a second. First things first, this is a Konica 50mm f1.7. So it's a basic 50mm f1.7. It's kind of a basic lens. I mean, it's an awesome lens because you can get it for stupid cheap. And it's a 50mm focal length, f1.7, you know, a little faster than f1.8, not noticeable at all. I mean, it really isn't. Paired with this adapter I have, I think it's really awesome. I love weird lenses and weird looks to things, and that's really what this gives it. This is a wide angle 0.5 times lens adapter. It's just a basic, I don't know, what is it, Ambico V3100. I got it with like this bundle of stuff I got. I just threw it on this to see what it would look like. It really gives it an interesting look, and it makes it also like a macro lens, so I can get really close to stuff. I actually use this a lot for B-roll and like close-ups of whatever I'm talking about, you know, like lenses, if I'm reviewing a lens or whatever, because you can get really close. I just love how it makes flares look, and it changes how light hits this, and it really makes it look interesting. And I'm a huge fan of interesting, weird things like that. But yeah, if you want to see actually a specific video about this, I can get more test footage and stuff, let me know. It's just a weird little setup I have going. I never really take this off because I have other 50mm lenses I can use. So yeah, it's just a really weird, strange thing I love using. Here we go, another one. This is just a quick, simple one. It's a Canon FD 50mm f1.8. This is kind of what I started out with when I started getting into vintage lenses, and I loved this lens. It's really versatile. You know, it's a 50mm f1.8. This one's the cheapest of them all by far. I mean, you can get these on eBay for like 20 bucks or less. So this one's just a nice, versatile, small lens to get you started. I mean, if you really don't have a budget, you know, if you have $20 to spend, just pick one of these up. You'll need to buy an adapter as well, which actually I have a bunch of. I'll show you right now. So yeah, got a bunch of these. I mean, this next lens I'm about to talk about already has an adapter on it. This one already has an adapter on it. I just have a bunch of adapters. They're pretty cheap. I mean, the adapter's probably as much as this lens, but for most lenses, they're pretty cheap. I mean, it's like 10, 15 bucks for each of these. Yeah, adapters are important. Like this one, it's a Minolta MD mount. I don't even have any of those lenses right now. I just have it. In case I do, I won't have to wait a few days to get it. I don't like waiting for stuff. All right, here we go. This is the last one right here. This is a Canon FD 70-210. It's an f4, and it actually has macro capabilities. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, 70mm, if you zoomed all the way out, you can do macro stuff. You know, like I said earlier, I don't use zoom lenses that much or longer focal lengths. I'm more of a wide angle person, but this is a great lens, 70-210. It's a constant f4 aperture, and you can just do some macro stuff as well. So it'd be good for B-roll or product shots or some close-up stuff, but I don't really use it that much. It's just kind of in my collection, just in case, you know, whenever I do end up using it. Great lens. If you're into longer focal lengths, you know, wildlife stuff, this will be great, especially on the A7iii. You can use crop mode and it'll crop in even more. It'll be like a 300mm or something. So nice and zoomy and long and stuff, heavy. So there we go. That's my collection of vintage lenses for the A7iii. Obviously my A7iii is what's filming this, so it's not here, but all these, and then obviously the kit lens is what I'm using right now. I'm hoping to get maybe like a Sigma 20mm or 24mm art lens, or the Sony 16-35. I'm hoping to get one of those sometime, but spending that much money, I mean, $600, $700, $800 is just not in my budget right now. It's just hard for me to spend that much, but these vintage lenses do a great job. I actually just sold my favorite lens of all time that I've used so far. Again, I only really use vintage lenses, but it was the Canon FD 24mm f2. I actually did a video on that, so go check that out. That was an amazing, like that was a really, really good lens. I just sold it, sadly, but yeah, go check out the video I made about that because that's an awesome lens as well if you're looking for vintage lenses for the A7iii. But either way, this is my collection. Let me know what you guys got in the description, you know, if you got any cool vintage lenses like this. And let me know if you want to see more videos about any of these in the future. And also check out my other videos. Subscribe, like this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Look, nothing too sharp, you know, nice and...